Welcome to Girls Who Read Porn. Please be advised that this podcast contains mature content for mature audiences. The title might have given that away though. We would also advise you triple check the trigger warnings of each book prior to the episode, and if it's not for you, we'll see you next week. Each episode includes major spoilers, so make sure you read the book, and don't say we didn't warn you. With all that in mind, on with the show.
Alrighty guys, welcome to another episode of Girls Who Read Porn. My name is Ola and I'm here with Jay.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. We're missing our third.
We're
missing a limb.
Yeah, she's
ironically
she's actually getting one of her limbs tattooed today. That's why.
Oh!
Yeah, so she's sitting for like 6 hours to get her whole arm started. So
the sleeve that we were talking about the other episode. What is she getting done on it? I don't even remember. She told me.
I think she's getting a crow, a snake, and a bunch of flowers today. So
with the tomato plant.
With the tomato plant. I think it's on the other arm though.
Yeah.
So
okay.
This is Betty, for those of you who don't know, is addicted to getting tattoos and is very slowly covering her whole body.
And we have an amazing guest today, not to fill in for Betty, but honestly, a little bit more exciting than Betty, not going to lie.
No.
We have the incredible, magnificent, beautiful, talented Laura Pavlov with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. I appreciate it.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm loving hearing about the tattoo. My husband is 54 and came to me. He's like, I want to get his first tattoo. And he got a whole sleeve. So
as your first tattoo?
First tattoo at 54. I'm like, it's very him. This is very on brand for him to get, like, to wait and then get the whole arm.
What did he
goes
get?
all in. So he got, like, it's really just like our family stuff. Like, he did a thing for my writing, like a feather pen, and have to be a doctor. And my daughter is about to graduate from medical school, so he got a like the medical symbol for her, and then time clock for my son with his birthday, and then he did a portrait of the three of us on his arm. So I'm like, wow,
he's dedicated
really
to you
went
guys
all
now.
in.
He can't go anywhere.
So yeah, it's been
that's it.
It's been stuck with the team. Yeah, he's stuck with the team now, but that's good.
Yes. I'm like, you're but it looks great. But yeah, I don't have any, but I think they're beautiful. I love seeing, what other people do.
I got my first one this year and it was a huge deal. And I was like really excited about it because it took me 2 years to decide what to do. And it's the most simple, dumbest thing ever, but I feel like it's very clever at the same time. My mum's name starts with A and my little sister's name starts with Z. So I got A to Z. So it includes everyone in.
They have meaning.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so cute.
But I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm going to go get we were thinking about going this weekend or next weekend to finish it up. Because I started a new job this week and I just want to splurge on my first paycheck and just be like...
Celebrate.
Right.
Yeah.
Do something for yourself.
Something.
I like that.
Yeah. So we're not actually here to talk about tattoos, let's be honest. We're here to talk about your incredible writing.
Oh, thank you so much.
No, we're really bloody excited. This one's a big one for us. We're really, really lucky to have you here and we're so glad. But we want to know about you, Laura. So tell us, how did you get into writing romance? How did you get into this world?
So I was a kindergarten. Well, I taught kindergarten through 5th grade, but kindergarten for the bulk of my 17-year teaching career. So I taught for a long time and I was always an avid reader. And I had this story that just would not leave. Like, I would get on the treadmill and run. It was in my head. I'd fall asleep. I'd think about it. So I told a friend that I read with all the time, like we would buddy read. And she was like, well, write it for me. So it kind of started that way as more of a hobby. And I wrote a few books that way, which have since all been unpublished. They were terrible, but it's okay. You got to try it. And then 4.5 years ago, I left teaching and kind of took the leap. I was like, I really want to give this a try. And I have been doing it full time ever since and loving every minute. It's been amazing.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. It's funny how people come from like such strange jobs. Like you'd never think a kindergarten
Right.
teacher would end up writing porn.
Right.
Like, let's be honest.
Like I'm right. I'm teaching these little kids how to read. And then at night I'm, writing things that I want to read. So, and when I left, I feel very fortunate that I've had two careers that I've really loved, because I did love teaching. And when I left, all the kids, they're like, Mrs. Pavlov is going to write books, and can we read them? I'm like, never. For a very long time. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
Yes.
That's so cool. And who were you reading at the time when you were like getting into it?
Gosh, a lot of the people that I went through, like I was on a big Twilight kick. I loved all of those books. And, but when I left, 50 Shades, I read all the ones that everyone was reading, but a lot of people that I still read, which is so funny because they don't believe me. Like, I was such a fangirl. Now I've become friends. Willow Astor, Candy Steiner, Catherine Cowles, Melanie Harlow. I was reading all of the people that I still read today, and so many more. Like, I'm a huge indie reader. So, it was always I read much more back then than I get to read now, just because it's busier and time-wise. It's hard when you're on deadline. It's hard for me to read when I'm writing, but I go through little phases. But back then I could read, a couple books a week, and that has definitely changed.
Does your husband read your books?
He does not. I think he tried to read one, and I'm like, don't force it, because I hate reading something that isn't something I would read. So he's tried a little bit, but I'm like, you don't need to. He'll plot with me a lot, and he's the most supportive, like loves to go to signings and loves to, he's always cheering me on, but he is not a big reader. So, and romance would definitely be his last, genre pick. So
I always wonder
but
about that, because I don't think we've met an author who's had a partner who's read their books.
Yeah.
Yeah, some say they do, and listen, my husband's a big jokester, so I'm okay with him not reading it, because he would never let me live it down, because he would be like, did you write this? So, but I have two kids. My kids are 26 and 28. My son is 28. So all of his friends, a lot of their friends I taught. So now they're all very fascinated by this new career. So my son's friends think it's so funny. Like, they'll go through the book and look
up.
So they call my books, and my husband's name is Greg. So they all call my books 50 Shades of Greg. I'm like, oh.
That's pretty funny.
It's pretty good.
So they think it's funny. So, but no. Yeah.
I'm sure your son feels very differently.
Yeah.
Oh, he is super supportive. He's gone to a few signings and he has fun, but no, he does not want to read them. He does not want to talk about what's in them. And I'm like, they're not that steamy. Like, mine are somewhat steamy, but they're not outrageous.
No, they're not. Like, they're very, they're a great entry-level book into romance, I think.
Yeah, before you go right into like the hardcore.
Yeah, like you wouldn't start with Jade West. Like, if you're starting, exactly. I would recommend that. That's just.
I get 2 to 3 chili peppers, and I read steamier than I write, and I'm getting there. I've been gradually getting steamier, but to them, this is outrageous. Right? It's so steamy because they don't read romance.
Okay. And what is it that you're currently reading, if you're reading anything, or what's the last book you read?
So, and I had a little break. I start writing a new book Monday, so I've just been devouring as much as I can. So cool. I finished Candy Steiner's book, Watch Your Mouth, which just released, and she did fabulous and loved it. And I finished that last week, and now I'm reading Melanie Harlow's new one that's coming out right after mine, I think on the 20th, and it's so good. So loving that.
That's awesome. Okay, and let's talk about how you come up with ideas for your books. Like, what's the Laura Pavlov process? How do we end up with a book?
We're still figuring that out, but so normally I decide to do a series. Like, I have a new series for 2024. The one I just finished, Cottonwood Cove, was 5 books. The new one will be 5 books. So I will start planning. Like, am I going to do siblings or friends? Like, I come up with that first, the characters. This new series that's going to be coming out for next year is like 5 guys that are kind of ride or die best friends, more like brothers. They've grown up together in this small town. And then from there, I knew. So in Cottonwood Cove, book 3, on the shore, there was Lincoln and Brinkley, and Lincoln has a brother. And so his brother is book 1 of the new series. So, he's kind of introduced earlier on. So I kind of knew his story when I was writing the last series. And then from there, I have these 2 big whiteboards right here, and I just lay it out. Like, what are the tropes going to be, the conflict? I start kind of mapping out all 5, because, you're going to be writing about them. So you need to know what's going to be coming in their books. But yeah, I just kind of get ideas from life, from observing and talking to people. And I'm always that person, like in the airport, I'm like tapping my husband. I'm like, oh, they like each other. I'm always watching the way someone looks at someone, or if there's tension, I'm like, those 2 are fighting. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, no, there's some tension there. So just life. I think music is a big inspiration to me. Like, you can hear a song and it can make you, think of a whole story, but really everywhere. So the ideas aren't, so far have not been a problem. They kind of just are there. And then I just start laying it out. And then I'll start plotting each one, like the one before I write it, I'll work on that one. And sometimes I don't know the conflict when, of a book that's coming up, but I'll try to tighten things up before I start writing it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have a few questions from everything you just said.
Okay.
My first question is, so I've read After the Storm, which is your 4th book.
After the Storm is the 5th book.
5th book.
Last one.
Oh,
yes,
I
with Cage. Cage and Presley.
Yeah, enjoyed it, loved it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My next question is, I want to talk about the next series. What's happening? What do we have already? Like, I want to know as much as possible that you'll give us, and then a little bit more.
You got it. So book 1, and message me and I'll send it to you, because it didn't make it in the ARCs, but it will be in the book when it releases. But I'll put the first 2 chapters of the new book in the back. I didn't have it edited yet in time to do it for the ARCs. So I'm finished with that book, but it's in the editing process.
Wow.
That book releases in January. And that is Romeo Knight. And he's Lincoln's brother from Cottonwood Cove. And he's a boxer. I've always wanted to write a boxer. I just love boxers. And so it's a sports romance, enemies to lovers, in the small town of Magnolia Falls. And kind of like bad boy, good girl vibes, lots of tension. And these 2, I really love them. It's a fun one.
Small town names in romance books are always like the nicest things ever. Like, I wished I lived in a place called Magnolia Falls.
Yeah.
It's like an origin story.
Las Vegas. Right. I know. I love coming. That's one of my favorite parts, is like coming up with the names and names of the town, names of the
those Virgin River vibes. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
Like, whenever you hear those story names, it's like whenever you hear the names in books, like with Lena Hendricks, do you remember the one where she had like that farm out in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, what was it called?
I don't know, but it was the funniest name,
same,
and
same vibe.
Yeah, same.
Yes,
vibes.
I was just with her at I went to my first writer's retreat this past weekend, and she was there, and I love her. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
Really
you went to a writer's retreat?
Fun.
My first one. It was really fun. Yes, we went to Palm Springs and spent like 5 days. It was really nice. Just we'd work in the morning and, visit, talk, shop and eat and laugh and swim. And yeah, it was great.
So it's writing, but also spending a shit ton of money.
We barely left the house. Like, we stayed at the house. It had a great pool. It was an Airbnb, and we all stayed there. And it was just really nice because, writing can be a lonely career. You work, you're by yourself. So um, I've made some amazing friends that I sprint with and work with just long distance. We'll sprint together every day. And then getting to meet up and spend some time together was really, really lovely.
That's special.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Cottonwood Cove for a little bit, because this is the last book that is coming out. Which one is your favorite in the series?
And I mean it when I say it's hard to pick. It really is. I have different things for different reasons. So the one that just came out after the storm, the final one, it's the one that I just wrote is usually so fresh in my mind. And I loved that single dad. I loved getting to write his because I had, he had been in all 4 books leading up to it. So that one is a favorite for just, like finally getting to be in his point of view and get to tell his story. The easiest one in that series to write was Under the Stars. Book 2, for some reason, just wrote itself pretty easily. So that one is a favorite for a different reason. And book 1, I loved because it was a new series. So I was excited to write it. And yeah, so all of them, honestly, like different, I like them all for different reasons. Like book 4 was kind of a surprise. I didn't think it went in a direction I hadn't expected. So that was fun. And then book 3, I love because sports romance I love writing sports. So yeah, I did not answer that question well because I know all of them.
At all. I'm not going to lie. We got nothing out of
It's
that.
like picking a favorite child, right? I didn't even narrow it down. I named all.
I know, but how many times have we asked this question, G, and just gotten the same response? Like, okay, so I love this one because of this, but
then
this
this one.
Yeah, every bloody
But
time.
then I'm self-critical of all of them. Like I'm always nervous when they come out. I think I'm like, oh gosh, no one's gonna like it. But my attachment to them is equal. It really, like, you spend a lot of time, weeks with those characters. So regardless, I always love the characters and that, but I definitely am pretty self-critical come release day. So
it's almost like they become your best friends because it's people that you spend time with for so long, which is a little bit like psychotic when you think about it. But like I imagine for writers, they're sitting there going, oh, I miss her today. Like, I was thinking about her. You know what I mean?
Right. Because you have to, you're doing text messages. So you really have to know them, like what they would say. So sometimes it's like a comfort, I'll have a hectic day, weekend, and I'm like, oh, I'm ready to just like go to Cottonwood Cove and
hang out with my bros,
have a chill day.
Yeah, totally. Give us an overview about After the Storm. Like, what's the story? As much as you can give without giving it away.
After the Storm is, it's a single dad. He's the oldest Reynolds sibling. So you've gotten to see him through all the books. And he's a single dad and raising this little girl who he adores. And one of my favorite things to write about him was he's like a grumpy, broody guy, but his internal voice is so funny because he wants to be this good guy because he's raising this little girl and he wants to do the right thing and take the high road for her sake. But he's so aggravated by almost everyone around him. And so that was really fun to write. But he's raising his daughter and the only woman he's ever loved. The timing was just off and life kind of took them apart. And so they both ended up in other relationships and he ended up a single dad. She is getting a divorce and comes back to town. And for a short time, to help her dad. And it's the first time they've seen each other in years. And it was just super fun to write that because like just that chemistry was still there. And then her relationship with his daughter was something I just loved. I didn't even know it would be that intense as it was while I was writing it. And I've gotten a lot of DMs about that. People really loved that. And I think found family is a beautiful thing, like this little girl has a dad who really loves her and no mom, but his family has really stepped up. But when when Presley comes back into his life, she really bonds with his daughter. So that was really fun to write. And so timing looks like it's not going to be on their side again, but
I hated you for that. I'm not going to lie. I was like literally reading it going, what fucking ass. Why would you do this? Like sometimes I read books and I'm like, the
I
authors
so
just
get
hate
it. I
everyone.
so get it.
Yeah, like the whole way through, I was just like, this is like I read it in one go. Because I was like, if I don't read it in one sitting, I'm going to be thinking about it for the next 6 hours and be completely irrational and not do anything to its fullest extent. Because I'm just going to be thinking about this fucking story the whole time. And it was so good, but it like really sucks you in. It was
Makes me so happy.
fantastic.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
really good story.
I love them. I love them. And so yeah, that is and Kate, they do it. They always get there happily ever after, right? So they get there, but it's a bumpy ride and they've had a bumpy history. So but yeah, I did love the way it all came together.
I think one of my favorite things in this book specifically was not their romance, even though that was one of the best things, but it was her relationship with her mum.
Oh, her mom. Yeah, I did get a lot of comments, gotten a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah, because I was expecting it to go like the complete opposite way. Like I was expecting it to explode and everyone just kind of,
Right.
I don't want to give it away, so I'm going to try and word this in a way so that it doesn't ruin it for everyone. But like just end poorly, like cut off in the end.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's what
Right.
most people do is like you cut off a limb
Right.
if it's not serving you.
Right.
But yeah, it was just a complete like, and you wouldn't think, oh my God, I had so many feelings about it. You wouldn't think that the way that she was behaving was for that specific reason.
Right.
Does that, I'm sure
Right.
that makes sense
I
to you.
didn't expect a lot of what happened with her either.
Yeah.
I thought it was basic. Like sometimes I'm editing, the next book, the first book in the new series, and my editor is asking about a parent in that one, and like sometimes there is room for redemption or like for a character to take a turn, and sometimes there isn't. And in that one I was like, I just didn't see it. It's kind of, but in After the Storm, I really loved the journey. I love when people are, you can't stand someone and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, maybe
Wait a
they're
second.
nice.
Why did that happen? Yeah.
I'm always for like, if someone's willing to change, like, and sometimes it's just someone is who they, with her mom, I think her mom is the way she is, but when you get to kind of understand it a little bit more, you're maybe more forgiving. And yeah, she did kind of surprise me, and I liked the way it kind of progressed with her.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool. Okay, cool. So do you have any particular smut scenes from this book that you're obsessed with? I can think of a few. They were very good.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm trying. I loved the art room scene. There were two scenes in that. Before it was an art room and then after it was an art room. I thought those were pretty sexy and they've got the view of the water, so it's kind of a good setting. And yeah, probably those, and their first time together after such a long time, I thought was an emotionally charged, steamy scene, smutty scene. So yeah, probably that first time. And then the night when Gracie finds them in the kitchen, right before that in the art room. And then when he shows her the art room, and yeah, they have a good time together in there.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And out of the series, if you could pick any of the characters to be with in real life, who would you choose?
Okay, so well, I think Cage is a really good I again, like, I love them all, but okay, I'll narrow it down to two. I would say Finn is a lot like my husband personality wise, so he would be a fun husband, like a book 4 Finn. He's fun, but then Cage is a fabulous dad, so I would combine those two.
Yeah, I could feel that. I actually really liked Cage. I was like, you're grumpy for everyone but for her.
Right. And we
It's my
love that,
favorite.
right? So
We love that
do
as a
love that.
podcast, I feel. I feel like that's a podcast favorite, like when they're grumpy at the world, but then they're just like complete marshmallows for their
Because
love
it's
interest.
satisfying.
Right.
It's special.
It's so special.
Right. Right. When they're just crazy about you. So yeah, Cage would be, he's a front runner for sure.
That's awesome. And so what's your next book called?
The next book is Loving Romeo, and that releases January, I think it's the 18th. And then that series will release every other month through 2024.
That is bloody
like
busy.
fast.
Yes, it is busy.
How long does it take you
Yeah.
to write a book?
It takes me about 5 weeks, and then I do a 1 week read through, so 6 weeks, and then it goes to editing. So like it's still, but then I start another one and then it'll come back, like, so it's, the whole process is longer, but the writing part is about 5 weeks. And then I do a 1 week read through where like all day I just spend like adding things, tweaking things, making changes for that week. And then I send it like to my developmental editor, and she has it for a week and a half ish, and then comes back. So I make more tweaks. So, you're working on it, but the actual first draft is, I can usually do in about 5 weeks.
Mad.
It's fucking wild. Every time somebody tells us, we're like, that's fucked. And then we get upset like when we don't see a book for a year from that author. It's like we're all in these like controversial states of mind when it comes to writing books.
I reckon it's hard now that we started this podcast because like we've all been readers, so it's been like, content. Like, it takes you like 5 weeks to read a book, but then Ola read it in one sitting. So
yeah.
But then in the podcast as well, it's like, yeah. But then we keep on being like, take breaks. Authors deserve breaks. But then we're like, but we also still need content. So keep writing.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to release, and sometimes people write me and be like, I can't believe you're making me wait that long. I'm like, it's 8 weeks. It takes I'm like, I'm trying.
8 weeks is pretty decent. We've got
that's very decent.
We're still waiting for the last book from Scarlett. What's her name?
From Scarlett St. Clair from the Hades.
Scarlett St. Clair, and we've been waiting 2 years. So I feel like 8 weeks is pretty all right.
Yeah, 8 weeks, 8 to 10. Sometimes it's 10 pending holidays and stuff. But yeah, 2 years, it is hard. But if you're traditionally published, it also takes longer. It's a different process. I've done both, and I prefer this because, it is nice to get to, and also like my kids are grown. My husband works. So, I work a normal day job. So it works because I don't have little kids at home anymore. I probably could not have done this, publish this often when my kids were young. It would never have worked. So I'm in a good spot for doing it.
It's awesome. And we'll finish off here, but do you have any advice for aspiring female authors?
Oh, just, write like crazy. Just write any chance you get. And I think there's this misconception with people that think like, oh, you studied this. Like, I was a kindergarten teacher. I had never been told by an English teacher that I had any particular gift in writing. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to know what you're doing to figure it out. So don't, like, if you have a story to tell, just tell it. There's so many readers, and it's like what you said, they want books. So write it and read a ton. Like, the more you read, the better you get, because, study your craft, see what's out there, look at what's selling, and then write whenever you can. Don't overthink it. Just get the story down and then find a good editor. And that's probably the most important thing is, getting it polished up. I had put the first book I wrote out way too soon, and that's what I took down. But have someone look at it and get help and reach out. This community is amazing. I mean, I've met amazing women and friendships that I will carry with me forever. Like, people are always open to help. So, ask questions and write like crazy, read like crazy, and write the story that's in your head.
I think we've been given that piece of advice a lot. Just write.
Just because I do. A lot of people will say like, I don't have this yet. I'm like, I had nothing when I started. I didn't know what a beta reader was. I didn't know what an ARC was. I remember every time someone would say something, I would Google it. I'm like, what is that? But you can't put out a book if you don't write. And I think it's easy to get caught up because there is a lot to do in this business, especially if you're self-published. You're wearing a lot of hats, but you don't have to wear them all when you first start. Like, just write the book, start it. And then with each release, I would try something different, like I got my newsletter up and then my social media, like just, you don't have to do it all in order to start.
Yeah. You say that about going in and not knowing anything. When we started this podcast, somebody was like, do you want an ARC? And we were like, what the fuck is an ARC? What are you trying to send us?
Same. Someone asked me for an ARC. I'm like, what's an ARC?
Yeah, we were so confused. We were like, what is happening? What are these words people are using? And so many times people would be like, and then the FMC went to the MMC, and then they went to the GTF, and then the PMP, and we were just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what are these people saying to us?
And genres and rank, and I didn't know what anything was. And I think that's what people get intimidated by, but I don't think they realize no one knows when they start, right?
It's like decoding a fucking government paper.
It is.
It's hardcore.
On reader groups on Facebook and stuff, people will be like looking for this, and then a list of a million different abbreviations, and all the spelling's been changed, so there's no bad words on Facebook, and it's this is a puzzle.
I'm constantly. I still don't know. I'll text author friends. I'm like, what does this one mean? I won't know what something means when I'll see it, because there's so many. Yeah. So you just kind of learn as you go, but the story you have is yours. So write it, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and you're going to feel like it's awful, and that never changes. As soon as I finish, I'm like, oh, I think this is terrible. It's over. It's all going to end. You get that self-doubt, and that imposter syndrome is real. So just give it to a friend, have someone read it. And yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us, Laura. We've had such a good time.
Always. I loved it. Anytime. I love chatting with you guys.
Thank you. I don't know what the fuck is happening next week. Normally Betty knows.
Next week, I think we're doing The Losers Duet by Harley LaRue.
Oh, that's I'm actually excited for that one.
Yeah.
Who is it?
The Losers Duet by Harley LaRue.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, you've read it?
Heard a lot about.
Yeah.
Yes, I haven't read it.
I've heard it's incredible.
I read the prequel novella that she did, and that was very spicy. So I have a feeling that this is going to be a very spicy duet.
Oh, you'll have to let me know.
Yeah, definitely. We had a bit of a hit and miss year, to be honest, Laura. So when we choose a book that we know is going to be good, or we've read something else by that author, we are kind of getting overly excited about it at the moment because we've not had a great year in choices that we've made with books.
No, I think we've just been we've been relying too much on other people's opinions instead of picking what we like to read.
TikTok can steer. I mean, I'll see a TikTok and I'm like, oh, I'm going to read that. Yeah, it can really influence what you read.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard when and reading's so subjective, what one person loves. You know what I mean?
That's true. It's very, very true. Anyway, guys, we're doing The Losers Duet by Harley LaRue next week, which is very exciting. We're nearing the end of the year. We've only got a few episodes left to record. So yeah, we'll see you all next week, and Betty will definitely be with us then because I'm pretty sure it's her week. So
fun.
Thank you, Laura. It was amazing having you here.
Thanks, guys. This was so fun. I appreciate you having me.
When does your book come out?
Oh, was it the 20th?
This comes out November 16th. So I think this airs. This is right after. Yes, yeah, that's okay. Perfect. Do you know what? That bit's going to go right on Instagram. I'm just going to get a shot of your face going. 16.
I'm like, I have to have it.
All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Girls Who Read Porn. Follow us at Girls Who Read Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And for all business inquiries, please send us an email on girlswhoreadporn@gmail.com. Art created by Jessica Wanney, and music made by Dane Forgy Stevens. See you next week, and stay smutty, team.